Walking tall, machine gun man. They spit on me in my homeland. Oh Lord, won't you help me make it through? Yeah, they've come to snuff the rooster. Oh yeah. That was my best. That was my best Lane Staley right there. You know,
that wasn't bad.
Didn't quite hit that high note.
Can't quite. I mean, you know, I'm pushing 50 and not doing.
There it is.
Copious amounts of heroin. So what do you want?
Meanwhile, Sammy Hagar's out there, but don't worry about it.
Sammy Hagar is a fucking professional. Okay, and a little confession time here. I really like a lot of the Van Hagar music. I understand it's very different from Van Halen. I get it. It's two entirely different epochs of the band as such.
Or two different bands.
Or two different bands. I can even take that. I can accept that. You know, the dude left like, you know, David Lee Roth extended his middle finger and said, I'm fucking out of here. And I didn't really like his solo stuff. I don't know what to tell you. So that happened. That's a thing. But yeah, it really was, you know, I think there was just a lot of value there. You just have to listen to it as a different band. I think you're right on that, RaShaun. I think you nailed it, you know, just like I did my best karaoke version of the Rooster right there. That was the best I was going to bring. That was the best I could have to offer today. But well, we are back here. We are,
took me
on a minute. Well, we were on a hiatus there for a hot minute. We, you know, the fact that, you know what we do, like we are all three of us still gainfully employed, unlike a good portion of the news media this week. We are here. We have jobs.
You're obviously not good at math.
But yeah, you know, not so much. No, ironically enough, my wife just asked me to do a math table at the science fair this weekend coming up, and I'm like,
as you should.
Have you met me? Have we communicated?
Just avoid division, apparently.
That's really the case, yeah. But all right, but for, you know, good, you know, two members of the news media, unlike them, we have jobs, so sometimes it catches up with us. So we had to take a little breather, just a little break from our time down in the steam tunnels. But
I'm sorry, I just had a Family Guy moment where next week these panels are replaced with one with Tucker and the other one with Don Lemon, and then a very confused Greg.
That would be so awesome to have Tucker and Don Lemon.
I will get drunk with Don Lemon.
That would be.
I've seen Don Lemon drunk, and I will get drunk with Don Lemon.
Yeah. That's
you don't even have to ask.
Yeah.
Question is, would you get drunk with Tucker?
Yes.
All
absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. I will get drunk with Tucker Carlson and see how long it takes him to walk out.
I don't think he's walking out. I think if you drank with him, he's in it for the long haul.
That fucker Tucker, he has no staying power. Like, he is not going to stay.
Are you shitting me?
With him.
A silver spoon wealthy, like whatchamacallit, when you send a kid away, boarding school kid. He's been drinking since like 12.
It's him and Brett Kavanaugh, right? Just slamming beers together. I love beer. I like beer.
I still like beer.
Shout out to Pee Wee and Squee.
Right.
Fucking douchebags. Where were you guys?
My buddy and my dad, who's sitting right behind me, talking about
also
him like,
drunk.
Talking about him like he passed 6 years ago, but he's literally sitting right behind me.
He cracks open a Schlitz.
A Schlitz. Now you're talking, kid. A fucking Schlitz, dude. That was when you knew you were for real. Like, never mind any of the other light beers that we were talking about that we were drinking.
Six.
I still like it better than Bud Light.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Tall ask on that one.
Yeah.
Slow down, Kid Rock. Easy. All right. No,
take.
you sacrificed.
That's a choice between, you know, a PBR and a Bud Light isn't a
Mr.
choice.
the Third.
Mr. the Third.
The third.
In all fairness, though, RaShaun, you're the one who came out and said you don't like fart humor the other week. So I don't know. I mean, who's being more hoity-toity
This
here?
guy.
This guy.
This
Okay.
guy.
I don't like fart jokes or Bud Light. Yes,
Bud Light.
I am pinky in the fucking sky. Every drink I imbibe. Don't worry about it.
All I'm saying is that pinky is mighty high, dude. You're looking right down the rim of whatever
I
you're
pierce
drinking
heaven
right at me.
Pinky is so fucking upright.
So I had that thing fused. I had a metal rod inserted into that pinky, so it may never bend. That is how that's gonna be right now.
God knows when I'm getting drunk. That's all I know.
Dignity, always dignity. Well, do not adjust your set. You have, in fact, tuned in to the Steam, gentlemen. We had to take a breather for a week, but we are back. You couldn't keep us away from that. You couldn't keep us. You could not keep us down. You could not keep us out of the Steam tunnels. We are here. I am Josh, the Birdman, the guy who's clearly here for the fart humor and the Bud Light. Apparently, not really. Now,
When was the last time you had Bud Light?
Yeah, God, man,
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm with that, but
Because you destroyed it all to own
Destroyed
libs.
yeah, poured it down the sink. And I am joined here by my co-host, the one, the only, the three of clubs himself, Mr. RaShaun Smith. Give a shout out to the people. Tell us all how you're doing.
Heyo, what it do? How to do? Happy to be with all of you. I would like to revisit one point real fast. Listen, I'm sure Denzel Washington will always be considered a better actor than Keenan Ivory Wades. However, if you replace one for the other and I'm going to get you suck it, you don't get a better movie.
I think that's a fair assessment. I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah.
I hope most of our listening audience has seen I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker. If you haven't, go on out and see that movie right now. That's you have
cinematic gem.
Make sure you have change for 100.
Yes. Fuck
me.
the cup. Just put it in my hands. Okay. All right.
And wear comfortable shoes.
So I am also, as always, joined by my other amazing co-host here, the star child himself, the man of the hour, the Ayatollah of rock and roll, the hardest working man in the art world, Gregory DeSense. How you doing today?
I'm feeling much better after that intro. Thank you, listeners, for coming in today. It's going to be good. We've got only a partial clue of what we're doing, which is always the fertilizer for success.
That's really, I mean, if you're going to go to the format of the show,
and the rest of it's bullshit.
Yeah, that's really it.
Let's be real. That's kind of the format of the show. We always have one idea, and from that idea springs the wellspring, that amazing thing that we are doing here that we can talk. But we were talking in our little hiatus there, and you might have noticed there was a little talk about commercials and promotions going on in the past couple of weeks since we were talking about beer. Amazingly, a lot of the country seems to be talking about beer and talking about promotions, and it got me thinking, like, let's be really honest. I believe it was Stanley Kubrick said the beer commercial was the height of cinema, right? You have to tell a story. You got 30 seconds to 1 minute, really. Yours truly briefly worked in commercials and in the promotions part of the industry when I was out in LA. We could have a whole nother episode where I can tell you stories about why trailers often don't feature the scenes that you saw in the trailer in the movie coming out, but that's another story for another time. Fact of the matter is, commercials are really important, right? They really are central to our society. We talk about them, we laugh about them, we think about them, and there's an art form to it, right? There really is something there in that act of telling a story in the shortest period of time. Yes, you're trying to sell that product, so you've got to get that message across, and you've got to get it across in a wide field, in a very noisy room. And everybody else is trying to get their product across. But what is going to make your little story, what is going to make your 30 seconds stand out above all the others and enter into the public zeitgeist? And really, if there's no more real-time example of pop culture and social commentary I challenge anyone to tell you, but the commercials that you do see out there nowadays has changed. It's on YouTube, right? You get your YouTube commercials, and you can get the chance to most of the time skip them, right? Occasionally, go past at least some of the longer ones. You can skip.
Not always, unfortunately.
Not always.
Someone
Not always.
got the gold membership.
Yeah, no, just sometimes it just depends if they're like over that minute mark. I think the 30-second ones, they just, if they tie you down to the chair and they make you watch them. But that brings us to that idea. We wanted to talk about our favorite commercials today. So here we are talking about it. So that brought us to the idea of maybe we should talk about our favorite commercials of all time, our favorite commercial campaigns, because, it's kind of on the brain right now. Granted, we record a week or so out. So maybe by then all this is just going to blow over and we can just go have a nice drink down at the Winchester. Who knows, right? Maybe all this is going to pass us by. But that brings us to my man, RaShaun. You got your 10 minutes of fame. Let's step you up to the plate and find out what you got on your mind for your favorite commercials and commercial campaigns of all time.
Yeah. All right, cool. When I see her, it is on site. I'm going to repeat that for people, just in case you're like, what the fuck did I just hear? I'm with you. So I'll say it again. When I see her, it is on site. Now, try to keep that phrase in your mind as I do my best to try to fill 10 minutes of content with, I would argue, maybe 3 minutes worth to talk about, but fuck it. We'll see how it goes like normal. I bring that up because commercials have a funny way of doing a lot of powerful things, and they're kind of designed to do that sometimes, or other times they're designed to hold up mirrors to the society in which they're made for. Sometimes they're there to kind of create a narrative that is either to be for the product it's a commercial of, or to, in ways, entice, but frankly mislead. Josh brought up what teasers can tend to do, theatrical teasers and trailers. We can make the argument for making misleading commercials, especially theatrical trailers. I'm not really here for that. I'm just pointing out there's a lot of different reasons. Fun fact, when I finally decided what I wanted to do in life, which was a first sign of many failures I was going to lead into in adulthood, I actually went to college for the idea of going into advertising and eventually being one of the individuals that make commercials. I do appreciate commercials for a lot of different reasons, many in which Josh had already mentioned in our lead-in, and I would argue both Josh and Greg are going to speak way more eloquently and have a lot more information on than I am for a lot of different reasons. However, and I can point out campaigns that have stuck. We were joking earlier about the Where's the Beef campaign that Wendy's had in the early 80s. Woo! There are other interesting, iconic type commercials that happen in many ways because commercials tend to actually lead into a cult following more than one would either imagine, or even if you had to hold it up against, like, let's say a movie or a TV show, in some ways could even hold their ground with those IPs in the same sort of cult following. Commercials can do the exact same thing and kind of create an image of the people involved more than maybe is justified. We can look at recent with, let's say, AT&T, and to the point where I've come across many social media posts of people advocating for the actor who plays the AT&T spokeswoman to be Squirrel Girl in the MCU.
Squirrel Girl.
One, because this person is in fact an actor, but like more an improv type comedian. But two, because that commercial has become so popular, people have like kind of created a sort of likeness for this individual. It happens all the time. When we were kids in the 80s, we had the Micro Machine commercials where it created a celebrity off of literally a person who his best talent was to read fast. Commercials have a funny way of doing that. They took an individual where, frankly, most of us only knew as a guy who can only get through roll call up to Bueller. They took him and made him into, they extended his career by putting him into Visine or commercials for eye drops and stuff like that, to the point where he created this, great sort of image about himself that later on, when people kind of found out who he really was, it was shocking. It was hard to accept because it didn't quite fit the role that both the role we first saw him in, and then the role that was sort of let's say extended through the use of the commercials and the power of commercials created for this person. I've opined multiple times on, let's say, the creative element of commercials. There are plenty different times in which commercials have, in my opinion, and I challenge many experts in the field of cinema to actually prove me wrong, where entities like Taco Bell for the last 15 years have created better stories in 20 seconds than a lot of movies that have been produced, some of which have won awards. They have created both, as Josh pointed out multiple times, and also in the lead-in, like Kubrick had pointed out, they had created a full story. They had an intro, they had a full plot, and they had a middle and an end. They had a conclusion. It was satisfying. It was fulfilling. Many different ways commercials can do that. They can create the image in which you want to see and feel. Do they use this to their disadvantage? To your disadvantage? Yeah, that's the whole idea of advertising. There's a reason why you see, let's say, Sprite commercials during basketball games, because they're trying to say that only we think black people drink it. Now, obviously, that's not the case. And if you're white and you never watch basketball commercials, but you watch maybe a channel that Sprite deemed worthy of putting their commercials on, you may not understand that or see that. So it's easy to understand that what commercials are designed to do is advertising, and commercials are just the child of advertising, is always designed to do. It's trying to manipulate you to buy a product. And that's always the case. I had a lot more material in my head, but frankly, I just completely forgot about it, because I was hoping I would remember it all. Maybe it's because I was trying to think of something clever to connect to, like, you got Dell, dude, because commercials also have a funny way of going into these series that are either intended, or I would argue most of the time not intended, regardless of what the celebrity that they create from. A lot of these times they create sort of these weird cultural phenomena that get replicated in, as Josh likes to say, the sort of zeitgeist of society, in a way that it becomes not only a running joke, but a profitable running joke. So, I just said, you got Dell, dude. That was part of the reason why Dell became an industry leader in a short amount of time, because they created a very successful commercial campaign that was nothing more than basically the typical white teen that you saw during that time. Spiky, highlighted hair, frosted hair tip, hair with, the cougar shell choker and many different plaids on, stuff like that, hanging out in a junky but upper middle class room that a lot of people who were coming from that background could adhere to, saw and immediately, appreciated. Once again, going back to Sprite in the sense of, like, in the early 90s, they actually had some of the illest rap flows in their commercials than any song that was out. So I'm talking about movies, and it created a phenomenon to the point where a lot of us during the early 90s were kind of hoping it would show up in the underground mixtapes that we would procure to hear shit that you wouldn't hear on the radio, because they were that effective. We were laughing about some of the early 80s commercials. However, I started this with the saying, when I see her, it's on site, and I'm going to conclude with that, because I'm going to take you actually to the early 2000s. Matter of fact, I believe it's 2000 or 1999. I think it's 2000 at this point, because it was during the Super Bowl. Bud Light, ironically for what I'm about to talk about, came out with a commercial campaign that absolutely fucking exploded. It was nothing more than a group of friends who were looking at each other and saying, "What's up?" Extended to calling
We might as well get this out of the way.
Yeah.
Extending to calling someone else in another side of the house or same apartment. Dookie, what are you doing? What's up? On. And look, it was fun. It was cool. It was similar to like in 2014 Geico. But shout out to whatchamacallit. What's the was it
The Gecko.
Go, but then the other one with Flo.
That's shit, Progressive. Thank you.
Progressive.
I got a family member who works for them, so yeah.
Shout out to Progressive. I love their commercial series, and it's extended past Flo. Thank God, because Jamie's the best, and the rest of the crew. But anyway, so the What's Up campaign kicked off. Bud Light ran with it. I was gonna say it was kind of like the Geico commercial in 2014 with Hump Day and the Campbell. Like it became this cultural phenomenon, and Bud Light ran with it for like, I would say about a year and a half. Let's say a year and a half, maybe two, where 9 months of it was way too long. And it had multiple of people knowing what's up. Now, why am I talking about it, and what the hell does that have to do with what I say in the beginning? Well, because it moved way past people who actually were doing that before the commercial. Because here's the thing about that commercial. When that commercial started, there were a group of people who were already saying things like, what's up? Because what's up was already taken. It was already taken from the group of people that came up with what's up. Same group of people that came up with Give Me Five. Same group of people that came up with a lot of different things this country uses, but doesn't really actually care about that group of people in the way that actually would reflect the way they use their culture. What's Up was nothing different with that. And at first, that group was kind of with everyone else and going along with it. But then they let it go because it was just like everything else. It had been taken from them and moved into the majority, to the point where 10 years later, you would walk into a room and some 70-year-old white guy would look at you and be like, what's up? And everyone's just supposed to laugh, and it's just supposed to be like, what the hell? Now, what the hell have to do with the beginning? Because the person who said on site, and you can go ahead and look up who came up with that on site. You can go ahead and look up who normally says on site. You can go ahead and look up why that expression even came to be. And again, what group is behind that? And then you go ahead and look up who fucking used that quote. Because what ends up happening, and the reason why Mandela effect is a super important thing with the commercials and the way we talk about it, is because it seems to erase the idea of who comes up with what. And then it gets adopted into another culture, and then it gets used as if that culture came up with it at its inception to begin with, almost erasing the fact that you can be, let's say, a supremacist of one culture, want to erase an entire culture, have nothing to do with them, frankly, want them gone off the face of existence, but you also want to use lexicon that is coming squarely from that culture to the point where you don't even know. You don't even want to factor where you got it from. You just want to say because that fits what you're thinking at that moment, at that time, because that's what you think is appropriate. That's what commercials can do more powerful than anything else. The Mandela effect of who actually said what, when, and how.
Since you mentioned Marvel, you gotta give it to Michael Pena, right? Or I don't know if anyone wrote the line for him. I don't know if it was improv, but Ant-Man versus the Wasp. At one point, Michael Pena is like, "What's up?" Remember that iconic commercial series from the 2000s, right? He brings it right back. It's there. Yeah. It's part of our culture, right? And it was this beat in the movie that he makes us laugh with. And you're right. There's all those implications of where it came from, what it was saying, who was saying it. But sure enough, yeah, Michael Pena all of a sudden in the middle of Ant-Man versus the Wasp makes me laugh in the middle of the theater, right? Just by bringing back to that commonality of the moment. So there you go. I remember that campaign, man. I said it. I'll admit it. I was going around to my friends saying, "What's up?"
We all did for like the first year or so, but
everybody was. Yeah.
The more it was what was happening like a decade later, and who's using it, to the point where the same people are using it do not actually ever really try to recognize where it's coming from. So you have to juxtapose in those moments someone using a phrase coming from a group of people they not only want nothing to do with, they want to erase, to the point where you're like, so we're clear. If you erase this group, everything that you like to say goes away. You may have this current vernacular, but you get nothing else. but you don't even want to factor it into your thought process because you own it so much that the Mandela effect kicks in to the point where you're the one thinking you came up with that shit, and that you'll always have it no matter who you get rid of or who you want to work with.
Well, I think that's a really valid point, and how it weaves its way into the social structure. It weaves its way into our vernacular. It weaves its way into society, right? And we sometimes forget where it comes from and the import of what that is and what that should be. So,
Well, that's kind of what makes a great commercial, though. Like, it has to be infectious. I mean, you've got to make an STD out of this shit. Like, it's got to be something that's going to get just passed around. Not even an STD. It's got to be like neurovirus. Like, it's got to just get passed around without even thinking about it. And then when you get to a point where, yeah, like, it's part of our everyday discourse and people are, trading the line back and forth and cracking up, it's a great commercial. Now, a lot of people have discovered a great ad doesn't necessarily lead to great sales.
man, that's always a question.
Like, you got a great ad and everybody likes singing the jingle. It doesn't necessarily mean they're buying it, or they like saying the slogan doesn't necessarily mean they're buying it. I think that would be an interesting project too. Like, popularity of the commercial as opposed to
Well,
actual success.
Well, let's let you step up for your 10 minutes here, and then, believe it or not, I might be able to touch on that. I had my own thoughts here, but let's give you your 10 minutes there up at the plate, Gregory. What you got? What are those commercials that you wanted to think about and talk about?
Hello, ladies. Look at your man. Now look at me. Now look at your man. Now look at me. Unfortunately, he's not me, but he can smell like me. I bring that up. It was the absolutely brilliant Old Spice commercials that I honestly looked forward to. And yes, I wanted to be him and I wanted to smell like him because he was absolutely fantastic. And the reason that I point that out, like, there was this little period, there's this kind of commercial, which is kind of the commercial of the absurd that just started happening. The talking gecko, for example. What the fuck does a little talking lizard have to do with insurance? No idea. Doesn't matter. What do cavemen have to do with everything, right? Like, what does that have to do? It was just kind of this appreciation of the ridiculous and pushing the absurd that much further. And with his name was Isaiah Mustafa. And in these Old Spice commercials, they would just kind of rapid fire these scenarios. And honestly, a lot was happening in those commercials. Like, supposedly it took like days to film and the editing was over the top. But the way that it would just roll from him being on a ship to him being shirtless, to him being on a horse, to him holding the shell with the tickets to that thing that you love. And now those tickets have turned to diamonds. It was brilliant. It was brilliant. It is because the level of sophistication, that was I think, one of the very few times that I saw a commercial for the product and I was like, I think that product is gross and I need to buy it. Like, this guy, this shirtless man has made me want this product I hate. I hate Old Spice. I think Old Spice is absolutely gross. It's this unbelievably pungent, strong smell that it doesn't make you think bro. It doesn't make you think old bro. It doesn't make you think old South American bro. It just you keep going, like, just, I don't know, until you get around to Filipino billionaire. Like, just this unbelievably powerful smell. But it made me want it. And you know what? Well done. I want this product. Right up until now, Chaos. He sells insurance also. I don't know when insurance commercials start, like Liberty Mutual is doing these insane commercials. Mm-hmm. I don't know when all of a sudden insurance commercials felt like they really had to step into the realm of Monty Python, but they've done it. Like, they have gone absolutely off the deep end. And you know what? Again, fun to watch. But if I may quote Elizabeth Warren, who are these people that like their insurance company? Like no one likes their insurance company. No one likes insurance. Like absolutely no one likes their insurance company. But I guarantee you, people really love their insurance commercials.
I just want to take a moment for our listeners and challenge you to find another podcast that quotes Elizabeth Warren. Continue.
Oh yeah, absolutely. My wife is a proud Elizabeth Warren fangirl. So and I love Elizabeth Warren too. Elizabeth Warren for president. Elizabeth Warren, all the good things. Another area you have to point out because it's us is Marvel. You know, it's really important since 2008, arguably, you know, before then, but since 2008, it has been a commercial media onslaught from this very, very obscure corner of American popular culture, comic books. But the way they have parlayed that into making sure that every commercial is a must see. Now, we're not just talking about the trailers. I mean, we know, well, trailers are commercials too, but they are. Trailers are commercials and teasers are commercials, but just the fact that they were able to turn this into something that people were literally calling each other like, yo, the commercial's on now. People were taking the commercials and breaking down every second, just in case the commercial had something that the trailer wouldn't, or just in case, you know, like it was just like a longer teaser. And this was something that was still coming out way before the movie was coming out. And then you had all of the product tie-ins, McDonald's, Walmart, computers, everything that you can think of, you could slap a comic book logo on. And that's the great thing about it, because the really great superheroes have a logo and you can slap that logo on anything. So the way that people were obsessing about every Marvel commercial that came out for a little while, like that's one thing that I think they perfected it in a way that is going to make every company unbelievably jealous for generations. Like this was, you know, that's almost what, 15, 16 years of commercials and years of movies that have been coming out, and all of them have just, even the ones that people turned around and said sucked. Now that was an important turning point. All right. Because even if you're going to say that, you know, Captain Marvel and I don't know, Doctor Strange 2 or Iron Man 3 are the ones that you can skip, it doesn't matter. All of those movies have been dissected and all of those commercials have been dissected. So whether or not the movie was terrible, that's another thing they learned. It doesn't matter. You know, the nerds are going to jump all over this. My other set of commercials that I definitely miss, I miss commercials that had loud kids playing with the toys in the commercials. All right. I feel like when I think of it, I think of like, I don't know, Nintendo with the Power Glove, He-Man. You remember the Power Glove. G.I. Joe, and it would have the little kid saying, "Hey, it's Cobra Commander," and he would fly the little ship in, and they would have like a little play set with mountains. I'd be like, damn, white people in America got money. Yo, this dude really got like a valley and mountains in his bedroom, and he's playing with his Transformers and his horses and his G.I. Joe in an actual mountain playset that he could afford. And then I can't remember the name of it, but G.I. Joe had an actual shuttle. This thing was bigger than the child. Like it was a huge rocket ship that would transform. It had its own mobile station and launch pad that you could also buy because, you know, apparently your parents love you or whatever. And so you would get this thing and it was gigantic. What kid had room for this thing? Josh, I see you with info, Josh.
It was the Defiant, because I knew what it was. I just wanted to check it up. That was the shuttle complex Defiant. All that. I've got it. I got it in the box set here. Just looking it up real quick on the internet. $45,000. Someone's trying to sell one for. I got an out of the box. I got an out of the box one at $2,400, just at a steal. So, yeah. And another one at $1,200 for again. But yes, and a good show I can put. Anyway, didn't mean to interrupt you too much, but since you were talking about that.
Oh, no. That's exactly what I was leaning towards in the first place. And then I had to bring up, you know, a little something. It doesn't come up very often, but soccer commercials. They don't come up very often in the United States. That's right. I'm going to talk about soccer again. You're welcome. So, it doesn't come up very often in the United States. And honestly, look, I think they're hilarious. I think American athletes, a lot of them, I don't know if it's because there's, it's so expensive to hire them, but I think they take themselves a little too seriously. Soccer commercials, the athletes are always having fun. They're always joking around with each other. I think the only ones who could probably do the same would be like State Farm. Like that was probably the closest you can come to making Chris Paul and James Harden seem like they're having a good time. But soccer commercials, they have a special place in your heart because one, in the United States, they only come around for the World Cup. And the World Cup usually is, as these days, as controversial as the Olympics. Where it's happening, how they got around to making it happen, how much it's going to cost, all the protests against it, and on and on and on. But then you have the really great commercials, and the really great commercials make it entirely worth it. Kylian Mbappe, Messi, Beckham. He's still a thing. Leave him alone. Beckham, you know what I'm saying? Like everybody, Mohamed Salah, especially Salah, like he was doing really great. Paul Pogba, like all of them just like running through the world, kicking soccer balls. Poor children somewhere, kick them a soccer ball. They can be the next Paul Pogba is always the dream. There was a really great soccer commercial where this hospital was just like exploding with all of these births. Like everybody was giving birth all of a sudden. And the hospital staff is like, what happened 9 months ago? And then they cut to the Champions League final where a team wins in Spain. And that was the reason where it was a huge, right? Like they have a sense of humor about it, and I thought that was particularly glorious. And I also love the recent one that had David Beckham and Peyton Manning going back and forth and whether or not it's soccer or football. That commercial was hilarious. So yeah, they only come around for the World Cup, and the World Cup is what it is, and it's not going to get any better. But those commercials are always hilarious. And yes, sometimes you might get Shakira.
American athletes make fun of themselves all the time in commercials. I don't know where you got that from.
I think they take themselves too seriously. I think they're too damn macho.
Find that commercial.
I mean,
if it's like a PSA base, which by the way, again, kudos, Greg, because I want to like literally redo my segment. I hate everything about my segment. Greg, fantastic.
Oh well, Greg is the man.
I try. But I gave some credit to like State Farm with Chris Paul and what was the one where they were singing like the Backstreet Boys in the back of the car? Like that shit was funny. I think they actually was that Damian Lillard.
I don't know, but I do know. Like, part of the reason why I'm upset is like I didn't talk about sports commercials because ESPN has a long running campaign where they bring sports stars in, and like it's nothing but a gag the whole time. Tell
me why ain't nothing.
And State Farm / I think Nissan has been running a sports commercial campaign for like the last decade with all the Heisman winners, where it's nothing but like gags left and right. I mean, they do it all the time. I'm sitting here thinking of like there's an old Bo Jackson commercial where it was people in the barbershop and they're telling Bo stories. And like, I heard Bo was so fast, he turned off the light. He was in bed before he went out and things like that. There was one with Griffey, same thing. I mean, like I'm super upset because like I just spouted while you had like good specific things that were awesome and just made me think like I'm upset thinking I didn't even bring up infomercials.
Oh, I mean, that we could do a whole episode on infomercials.
I was actually thinking of doing in the 1-800 as seen on TV. Buy your CD. Because I'm serious because I was thinking about those commercials the other day because I saw some CDs that said as seen on TV.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And you could decide, do you want it on CD or cassette?
Oh, is that Freedom Rock, man? They'll turn it up, man.
I'm still waiting for someone to let me borrow their Hey So classics.
That's
right. If it wasn't for those commercials, I wouldn't know who Conway Twitty is.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I have so much to thank them for.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Conway Twitty.
Conway
As
First time I saw him, I'm like, wait, he's real?
He's real?
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
Conway Twitty.
I volunteered for the 3 of clubs spot here today, so I got to go a little 3 of clubs here. Just taking on one thing, Greg. Just because you mentioned Old Spice, I got to give credit to now that those commercials were inspired. I'm on a horse, absolutely inspired.
I'm on a horse.
Look at me. Look at your man. Absolutely inspired. I just do want to give a little credit to my man Bruce Campbell, who preceded that, where he comes on and just spouts out nonsense words for a full solid minute of just absolute nonsense. And maybe it was because he was in Evil Dead, and I loved him so much for that. But yeah, that was what first made me want to buy Old Spice. But you can't. When you follow it up, he was just a warm up act. You're right. Yours
want to, but you didn't.
Yes.
You know what? Thank you, Birdman. You just made me feel better about my segment because you just wrapped it up in a nice little neat bow. Black man does something, white man comes along and just wants to give a credit to another white guy.
Ain't it always the way? Ain't it always the way? Playing my role here quite typically. But I gotta also I want to warm up with the commercials we forgot. I want to talk a little bit about the commercials we've forgotten, and I want to talk about the commercials that didn't hit, right? The failures in some respects, or the ones that, all that was done. And really, for the most part, they took place in our holiest temple of commercials, the Super Bowl, right? That's like our holy holiday of every year, where we bring, where the priests of Madison Avenue bring out their very best. Sometimes they preview them beforehand. I don't know if this first one, I just want to give an honorable mention to. Don't know if it premiered on the Super Bowl, but can we just get a moment of love for The Gap? And here's why. The Gap had a swing commercial with people dancing around and swinging, firstly, tapping into the zeitgeist at the time. Swing was really hot. Everybody was loving it. And they jumped up, and then suddenly the cameras rotated about 180 degrees. And then they went back to dancing. And what did that give us a preview of? It gave us a preview of a little film that was going to blow our fucking minds in 1999 called The Matrix. All right. That first happened in a Gap commercial, that bullet time, stop time running in there. So that was that first thing there. Go ahead there. 3 of clubs.
I legit swore you're going to say led to the music video, Buddy Holly.
Buddy Holly, I have talked about it before. That was an amazing moment. We all sat around there. It wasn't quite a commercial except for the band itself, but
the technology.
The technology was blending in without a doubt. But I got to go to just some of those things that happened during those Super Bowl commercials, and how hard some people work and how much they bring in for their entire adult lives, their working lives. This is their moment. And this was what was going on. This is what they came up with. Now, this one for you, 3 of clubs. This one is just for you, 3 of clubs. Was that some poor schmuck actually had to sit there, pitched, and made it through? Okay, picture the scene. It's a couple. We're going to sell Bud Light, but they're going to be in a horse-drawn carriage, and he's going to have a candle, and the horse is going to fart, and the candle's going to light up, and the hilarity is going to ensue. Not only did they somehow make it all the way through the pitch process, where somebody had to pitch that out, somebody had to storyboard that sucker.
Somebody had to say that out loud.
Someone had to say that out loud. Now, my sister rode horses. I grew up around horses a little bit. I've always been a little terrified of them. And not the least of which because they actually do that, okay? Horses do possess an anus, and man, are they loud. I'm just going to tell you, if you've ever heard a horse break wind, it's a sound you will not soon forget. So that happened. But yes, somebody got, but we're talking about Bud Light controversy right now. Somebody managed to go into the Bud Light office and say, here's what we're going to do. It's Super Bowl weekend, and we're going to do a horse flatulence commercial. This is going to happen right here, right now. We had the other controversial commercial with Tim Tebow's mom. that I found out, I'm not joking, several months later, I guess was an anti-abortion ad, but I didn't understand it. They paid a lot of money to have Tim Tebow's mom talk about something. It really never said the word abortion. There was never anything talked about. There was never anything talked about bodily autonomy, any of it, birth control, nothing. Just Tim Tebow's mom came on. I didn't realize it was Tim Tebow's mom until Tim Tebow randomly comes out and tackles her, but she's a quarterback. So, okay. But yeah, that happened. I just at least have to give that moment to, this is what happened. This is where we spent all of our time and all of our money. On another honorable mention, going to this year's Super Bowl campaign of This Is Us. Gotta love it. Really sounded great. Really all kinds of, happy, friendly Jesus. This was the nice, the nice kumbaya and everybody holding hands, and he gets us commercial going on. Happens to tie back to Hobby Lobby, a multi-billion-dollar business that steals more artifacts than Indiana Jones. And apparently this was the idea of how to bring the country together. You couldn't actually give to a charity, couldn't actually help some families out of poverty. You could spend $5 million for a 30-second spot, or I think it was like tens of millions of dollars for a 30-second spot in the Super Bowl. I think the best meme I saw of that was Rick from Pawn Stars. So up above, you had Jesus say, how's the poor and feed the hungry, and below Rick's like, sorry, best I can do is a $5 million Super Bowl spot. So, but that brings me to, I think, the most masterful commercial of all time. And thank God for the internet, because now you can Google it. Maybe I will try and remember to put it in the episode description. But it only aired once. It aired during the Super Bowl. It was one time. Blink and you might miss it, but it was the Apple computer ad, the original, the idea that brought Apple computing onto the scene. Now try and picture this. It is truly Orwellian. It was based off of Orwell's 1984. There is a group of people all sitting around kind of their computers, staring blankly into their screens, and up in front is a gigantic blue screen with this giant head, a la Big Brother, kind of preaching to them and talking, really just these great, this dogma, right? It's clearly a state-run dogma where people are just cogs in the machine. It's all set up. And during that time, a woman runs on to the screen from the opposite end, and she's carrying a large hammer, like a sledgehammer, and she is running and evading guards as this disembodied head is talking and getting more and more animated and getting more and more into its dogma and trying to run and break down the spirits of the people observing it. And this woman runs on, finally evades the guards, takes the hammer by the end, swings it around 3 times, lets the hammer go, and breaks this giant blue screen. Now, keep in mind, IBM was the standard of computing at the time, and it was what Sirius computers did, and everything was there. And it was also referred to, the colloquial name for IBM was Big Blue. So you have this big blue screen, and this hammer goes in and breaks the screen, and everything kind of cascades in white. And it's announced that, in the next year, you're going to learn about Apple computers. And it starts, only airs once, right? I think and it's a cinematic masterpiece, right? Again, I think it goes a little longer than a minute. Definitely YouTube it. I will put it in the episode description here. That only airs that one time, but goddamn, stayed in my memory and it's still talked about this day in marketing classes, right? That Apple, I think at the time, spent all of its money. This was it. This was their one shot. And if this didn't work, the company itself might not get off the ground. It has that legendary status of trying to just cram everything into this one cinematic story. What's that story? If you're the creative, if you don't want to be subdued by this overarching oligarchic bureaucracy, this autocracy, then you're going to come and you're going to use this Apple computer, right? This is the way to freedom. That's the only thing we didn't have was Mel Gibson talking about freedom and talking about the Jews trying to take over the world in this Apple computer. But it aired one time. Goddamn. That's a hell of a story, man. That you don't hear about that too often. That you only have this one chance, this one time that you have that you're gonna have that chance to make your shot, and seems to have worked because I'm sitting here recording all of us on my Apple right now as we're talking, right? And there wasn't even a second thought or hesitation. So just wanted to give that shout out to those commercials that maybe got forgotten. Maybe that, somebody, as I said, somebody had to go in there and pitch a flatulent horse, and they had their moment, and then it just faded. But thank God for that. Thank God for Apple computers, or we wouldn't be here today.
I would argue the farting horse may have been a product of that's what we have left, or fuck it, just go with the farting horse.
Let's go with the farting
I'm not
horse.
sure it's always a matter of meritocracy where the best idea won. Sometimes it really does come down like whatever. Do we have a Dalmatian? We don't have a Dalmatian. Fine. Let the horse fart. I don't care. Just like run with something. We put a little too much majesty in some of the creation of these iconic campaigns.
I kind of wonder if the guy really had like a major hangover from the night before and was not actually drinking Bud Light, was actually out drinking real alcohol. And it's like, okay, so we're gonna put them all in a carriage, in a sleigh, and the horse is gonna fart, and that's gonna light their faces on fire. It's gonna be hilarious.
That's genius, sir.
That's genius, sir. You put that on a Super Bowl ad right now.
A lot of those, I mean, the ones you were talking about, like I kind of was thinking about, Super Bowl ads, but there was also, like WWF ads, you know what I mean? Like WrestleMania and Royal Rumble. I mean, those commercials were events too. When Monday Night Raw became a thing, or Saturday Night Main Event became a thing. I kind of wanted to mention those two, but I mean, it's like there's so many summer movie commercials.
Oh yeah,
which I kind of touched on with the Marvel commercials, but summer movie commercials also just as good. And
right
then the
now,
commercials back in the day for the giant VHS collection of old TV shows. Oh my God, man, the Andy Griffith Show. Yes, you need to get that like 15 VHS set of the Andy Griffith Show.
Top of your memory, what is the most iconic summer movie teaser or teaser series? I'm not ranking. I'm just wondering your opinion. Top of your memory.
I mean, off the top of my head, Independence Day.
Yeah,
that was a hell of a one.
That's mine. That was mine. They borderline pissed people off. They got just. I'm like, look, fucker, if you don't tell me what ID4 means, I'm burning all of this down.
And I'm going to burn this motherfucker down. I'm going to make a little true confession time here for you, RaShaun. I bought tickets and went to see Meet Joe Black because in my understanding, and Wing Commander, because there was supposed to be the trailer for The Phantom Menace there. And we could see it on the screen. I needed to see it on the big screen. Nerd.
I had seen it. Your sacrifice.
A little bit. I mean, yeah, a little bit. I mean, Wing Commander. All right.
That's how much we hated QuickTime. You're willing to Meet Joe Black.
I had seen Commander. I had seen
something a little bit better.
On QuickTime, but
QuickTime because
QuickTime could only do a small window.
It was just watch
full screen
shit on QuickTime.
I watched that shit on QuickTime, but I needed it on the big screen. I needed to go out.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's how much you hated QuickTime.
Well, no, because again,
Joe Black and Wing Commander for that.
That just goes to show again how great a job a great commercial can do, because especially when you're talking about movies, but also some products, I mean, yeah, everybody. That was a great commercial for the Phantom Menace. That was an excellent commercial. You
Oh
wanted to
yeah.
know who Darth Maul was, these new vehicles,
Oh yeah.
who are these new characters? Oh my God, more Jedi. That means more laser sword fighting. This is going to be great.
Double laser sword.
I know.
Double laser sword.
And then you saw the movie.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem. And I promise you, I know we're trying to get out of here, but I disagree with how I felt when I saw it. I felt a little bit different. I felt like, please tell me it's going to be better than this shit. Please tell me what I'm seeing is not going to be the rest of the movie.
I bought my Darth Maul, which I still have. My 12-inch Darth Maul figure before I saw the movie.
There you go.
I was just like, I don't know who that guy is. I just know he's a fucking badass.
Yeah, the rest of it, because you have to remember, it was a lot of pod racing. It was a lot of fucking, no offense to the kid, because he was put in an impossible situation, Jake Lloyd. It was a lot of, like, we all act like we immediately got along with Obi-Wan Kenobi's hairdo, but let's be clear. We were all there right away. Okay. So there's a lot of things. We had Yoda just talking. Like, there's so many things that at least Star Wars fans like me,
my name is Anakin, and I'm a person.
I'm just saying, for me, I watched that trailer so many different times because I continued to try to find different angles where it did not suck.
Well, you were ahead of it. I remember a guy I worked with at the time was pointing out Jar Jar, and he's like, "This isn't going to be
Jar Jar because it's physically emotional to even bring him up."
We don't talk about
that guy.
Jar
almost
Jar.
Killed himself.
I know, and I feel bad, but I remember at the time the guy I worked with was like, "Watch this one because this is the Lucas character, and he's going to do the Lucas thing with it," and he was right. But you know what? Now that we're on now that we're talking about commercials, let's run a little commercial for us. Bring it on over to Apple, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you can rate and review us. Please drop us a little rate and review. Please help us hit the charts. Please help us sell that pre-planned meal thing, those that at-home therapy, the dick pills, all of it. We need that money. We need to get that in there. We need to get that sponsorship money out there. So please do that. Follow us on the socials. We are the Steam Gentleman Podcast on Facebook. We are Do You Even Steam Bro on Instagram, and the Steam G's on Twitter. Though we are not verified. We were not good enough for Elon Musk to bestow upon us his own advertisement for a check mark that we didn't pay for, that he could pretend that we did. So we're not to that level yet, but help us get to that level. I'm down with Elon kissing my patootie and pretending like I went in for his Twitter blue feed, because that's never going to happen.
Yeah, whatever.
That's just not happening.
We didn't get the paid for check mark. Yeah. We did not get that. And
hello, fellow verified people.
Sweet skateboard.
Exactly.
Where'd you get that? Toys R Us?
Right, exactly. That's how that is. But as we head on out to our own commercial wonderland and success, let's turn it back. Let's check in with the Three of Clubs. What you got on for the rest of the week? How's it going to be?
Like normal, trying to make it to the next paycheck. I do want to leave us with a couple of things. One, there's a lot of meat on the bones. All of us did not even touch the weirdness of the 80s like we normally talk about, the weird campaigns that came out of it, like the fucking Pizza Hut Noid or Domino's Noid. We didn't touch upon what industries were willing to do to move forward with these campaigns. We didn't touch upon infomercials, the awesomeness of it, and the fact that me and my wife, way back in our dating days, fell into this weird sort of malaise routine of watching infomercials when I got back from the dive bar that I worked at. And that was our entertainment at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. in the morning. I got to tell you, it didn't let us down ever. We didn't talk about local commercials, where if you want to talk about zany, left unchecked, and then given cocaine, then you start to understand local commercials. And that can even be for your local library. What I do want to talk about is a serious matter. Before you go see Fast and Furious, I don't know, what are we like at 102? Before you get that next burnt coffee from a region that isn't from the region they're telling you from, but at least you get to have a white cup with a green insignia so you can make it look like you have money to burn. before you do any of these things, I'm just asking for the good people out there listening, maybe not even being our listeners, maybe not even being our followers or fans, but just people who have a heart and are wasting money doing bullshit, for just $2 a day. Support 3 individuals as they try to escape the hellscape that is their 9 to 5, just for $2 a day from now until, I don't know, 2030. Let's call it then. Like at that point we'll be good, but just $2 a day, because we also can come back with content and talk about the weird empire of commercials that guilted the shit out of all of us and made us all think, to the point where parents hit us every single time we were not wanting to eat food, that there's hungry kids in Africa who, for I guess $10 a day, would end food hunger. So just $2 a day. Help out steamed gentlemen.
Rest in peace, Sally Struthers.
Rest in peace, Sally Struthers. That. All right. Well,
She
with that,
did not look like she missed anything, and as that camp continued,
yeah,
even making fun of her, it was a weird juxtaposition. It's like, hold up, why are you asking me for money? You seem to be able to eat just fine. Why don't you help out the people around you?
It didn't play well, and it made its way into a early South Park episode. Greg, what you got going on for the rest of the week?
I don't know. I might keep on watching commercials. This was kind of fun. It was a good time to catch up to, just old ads. I never, I completely forgot about, especially we didn't do PSAs, but I mean, we're 80s kids. Like we grew up with heavy-handed PSAs, not just commercials, but after school specials. So I don't know. I might keep watching the commercials for a little while.
I mean, we actually had commercials paid for by the Mormons, which was just amazing. I mean,
sing your confession.
Absolutely amazing. I didn't
Who broke the window?
Legit. Didn't know what a Mormon was. I had to ask. I'm like, who are
I had to ask.
What is this? I had no idea.
I always wonder when they showing up and making that pizza though. Like, we can talk about snitching all we want, but when we coming through with that pizza, because I'm hungry as fuck.
All right.
Yeah,
and the commercials for lawyers.
I'm just gonna leave you with the fact that you can find them online. But if you want just the best experience of your life, look up the Flintstones selling Winston cigarettes. Nothing is better, right? Because Fred is like, "Hey, Bonnie, let's go have a cigarette." And they're sitting there like, and they're sitting there like, "That's smooth." And doctors say this is the best cigarette to smoke. Yeah. This was a time in America where they had doctor-endorsed cigarettes, which I loved, and I love that, because it was my father's generation. He was like, "Yeah, we all knew that was bullshit." Like, we knew these were not good for you, but nevertheless, the tobacco industry was able to go on television and tell you that 9 out of 10 doctors recommended Lucky Strikes. Right?
Well, I was thinking about going in that direction too, like commercials that would not play well now.
Oh God!
Because back during the plastic revolution.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. And everybody was like, get all of these containers in plastic. Look at all these uses for plastic.
Mm-hmm.
We need much more plastic. Like, yeah, about that. Right now we call them dolphin killers.
Right. Nothing helped the anti-smoking campaign more than when their spokesman for 30 plus years dies first from complications that you get from excessive smoking. And the hard part, what even kicked in, was the guy wasn't really a smoker. I say a lot.
Kill it.
Very common.
This is like, God damn, that guy.
That guy. But do yourself a favor, and I'll try and put it in the episode description. I don't know why I get such perverse joy out of it, but I absolutely adore the Flintstone cigarette commercials. Nothing better. All right, well, it's been another time in the Steam Tunnels. We thank you for coming out. We thank you for joining us today. We've then in the meantime, till we meet next week, this is Josh the Birdman saying keep your heat up and keep your head of steam on.